up finishing the class with a 48%. Ladies and gentlemen, a 48%, like
the whole lot of ways I could give my cash up. Nigga, you ain't got no backup. You should back up.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new here. Today I am going to be spilling all the tea in regards to my first year at uOttawa, and more specifically my first year in nursing school. So to make this video a little bit more interesting, I'm actually going to be doing my makeup. This video has been requested literally ever since I finished my first semester, but I had a lot going on and I just wanted to wait for it all to pass before I went on and like made a video about it, you know? I want to start off by giving you guys a little bit of an idea of like what my program is like, just in case this is your first video of mine or if you just don't really know. So I'm currently studying to get my bachelor's of science in nursing. First year is just all theory, so it's a pretty dense year. It's a lot of studying, it's a lot of hard work. Then in second year, that's when the hands-on learning starts. You get your labs and you start clinical and all that stuff. But this year was just theory, and it was a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna talk about how my transition was going from high school to university, because that's a really big thing and everybody obviously deals with it differently. Rewind a little bit to high school and what my study habits were like, just so you guys can kind of get a feel for what I was like before I started university. In the 9th and 10th grade, I literally was like your average student. I was getting B's. I had 1 or 2 A's. I just was an average student. I always had a 75 average, which is a B over here. The 9th and 10th grade, I literally didn't care because everybody always says like, oh, grade 9 and 10 don't matter when you're applying for university. Honestly, they don't, but like it's important that you build the good study habits early on in your high school career so you can kind of like figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Obviously, when it came to grade 11, I realized that I kind of needed to stop slacking around and be a little bit more serious about school. So in the 11th grade, I pulled off getting honor roll for the first time, so it's a A- average. That was a really big accomplishment for me. In grade 12, I really needed to up my grades to the next level. So for the majority of the year, I was sitting at a 90 average. I had 90s in all my classes, but just a little bit before grad, I dropped a couple percent. So I actually ended up graduating with an 88% average. Honestly, I'm not mad about it because that took a lot and I worked really hard for it. And then in regards to study habits, I took a decent amount of online classes throughout high school. I took stuff through my school board, and then I also took classes through online private schools as well. So I really got familiar with the idea of having like a flexible schedule, and I kind of learned to be responsible and discipline myself to study, especially with my private school courses. They weren't structured in any way. I kind of had my own due dates and I just studied when I wanted to. I got used to, you know, teaching myself, setting deadlines for myself, being a lot more responsible for my studies. By doing all these online courses, I ended up having a surplus of credits. I was ahead. So the 11th and 12th grade, I had like a bunch of spares. And if you guys don't know what spares are, they're basically just free periods. And I had 7 throughout my high school career. Most people have 2, maybe 3 max, but I literally had 7. Like I could have graduated a year early if I wanted to. I didn't, but I could have. So that being said, I was going to school for like, you know, 3, 2, even 1 class a day. And obviously starting university, I was doing 5. So I wasn't used to that because it had been like 2 years since I really had full on classes. That in itself, like going from taking just a couple classes to having 5 classes, like that was hard on me. Of course, the transition is different for everybody. Some people find it easier, some people find it harder. It just really depends on you and how you study, how you learn best. But honestly, the first semester, I want to say, or maybe even the first year of university, is kind of just like an experimental year. You learn about yourself, you learn how to study, like it is what it is. I'm gonna talk about my classes that I took this year. So I'm gonna tell you guys the classes that I took, what they were like, and just like a general idea of how I did in the class. Basically at uOttawa, and this is like at every single university, I'm sure, for your program, you have a recommended course sequence, so you can finish your degree in like the allotted time period. So for me, my degree is 4 years if I follow the course sequence. If I fail a course, because nursing, everything is a prereq for like the next year, then I would be held back and I would have to do extra schooling or whatever. But I followed my course sequence, so that was pretty standard, 5 courses per semester. 4 each semester were required like towards my degree. They were prereqs for next year. So the 5th course each semester was my elective. Let's just start with my first semester courses. First semester, I had 5 courses, and I'm going to start off with the required ones for my degree first. So I had to take workshop in essay writing, and that's just an English course. It's required for most first year programs, and if it's not that English course, it's going to be something else, like another type of English course that you're going to have to take in first year. I was really happy in grade 12 because I was like, I'm finished with English, I don't have to do it again, because I'm not a fan of English. Like, I'm so sorry, I'm not a fan of it. But I went to university and I was like, okay, I have to take a whole course on essay writing. It really wasn't that bad. We had weekly grammar quizzes, which were kind of gross, like, not even gonna lie. And then we had one big term paper and just a couple assignments here and there. Overall, the course was pretty light compared to the rest of my courses. You guys are gonna hear that they're all memorization based. This was the only one that I actually had assignments, and I had a discussion group that I had to go to. But overall, I really liked my prof. I think he was a really good professor. He was a lot more lenient than the other English profs, and he was really accommodating. He was just a really good prof. And plus, this was like my smallest class. There was only like 65 people in it. That might be big to some people, but most first year courses have like 200, 300, maybe even close to 400 people. So 65 was really good. It was a chill class, and yeah, I got an A on the final. I was really happy about that. I wouldn't take the course again though, but it wasn't a bad experience whatsoever. Then I had to take Intro to Psych, and honestly guys, I love learning about the brain and I like learning about mental health, but psych just wasn't for me. I know there's so many people who absolutely love Intro to Psych and then they go and they take the next one, but for me it just wasn't it. I also just didn't really like my prof. I finished with a decent mark though. I would not take another like psych course, it like by choice. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. So the third course that I had to take was Social Determinants of Health. This is like a pretty straightforward class. It's honestly common sense. It's easy, but it is a little bit boring, I'm not even gonna lie. It also didn't help that this course was actually a 3-hour 8 a.m. lecture for me, so that's just not fun. Like, that's a recipe for disaster as it is. However, I really liked my prof. He made it super easy for you to do well in the class. This was my first A in university. Like, when I was waiting for my marks to come in, this was the first mark that I got. It was an A. I was super duper happy. I plan on taking an elective with him next year because he's just great. The last and final course that I needed to take for like my required courses for first semester was A&P 1, Anatomy and Physiology. Anatomy and Physiology will be your life in first year. I'm just gonna put it out there. Be prepared. I don't want to say be prepared for the worst, like that's dramatic, but just be prepared to like stay on top of your things. They're gonna catch up and bite you in the butt, and I'm gonna tell you guys a fun little story about that. So basically, I failed A&P 1105, which was the very first anatomy and physiology course of nursing school. I ended up finishing the class with a 48%. Ladies and gentlemen, a 48%. Like, what am I gonna do with this 48%? Nothing. I was so not serious about my first A&P course. Like, I didn't know how to study, and I would skip class, and if I was in class, I'd be on my phone, I'd be talking to my friends, I'd be distracted. Like, there's so many things that went wrong that semester, and when I got my first midterm mark, I got a 36%, and I was like, wait, why? Like, this has to be a mistake, because I literally went from getting A's and A pluses in grade 12 to literally getting a 36% on my first university midterm. Like, guys, I was really confused, and I was upset, but I didn't learn from that. I literally did not learn from that, and I finished the course with a 48%. Luckily at uOttawa, the Faculty of Medicine is pretty sick because they have this rule: if you finish any of the anatomy and physiology courses with a 40 to 49%, you actually have a second chance of writing a different version of the exam. So it's going to be like the same format, same topics are going to be covered, but it's just going to be different questions. And so I studied my butt off in February reading week. I literally was here in this spot from noon until like 2 a.m. and I was just studying. I spent so much time, blood, sweat, and tears, and I ended up getting a B on the final when I rewrote it. So that was like amazing because I literally went from getting a E on my final to getting a B, so that was just great. It was a lot to go through. Guys, just don't even get yourself in that situation in the first place. Be serious from the get-go. If you guys want tips on how I studied for anatomy and physiology, I am totally down to make that video because I came a really long way. First semester, I went from getting like D's and E's and F's in my anatomy course to getting A's and B's in my anatomy courses this semester. So if you guys want that video, let me know, because I'll make it, because I went through it and I don't want any of you guys to go through that either. And then the 5th course was witchcraft, and I know you guys are probably like, what the heck is this girl talking about? Like, witchcraft, like, is she okay? Like, I have friends who literally don't let me live that down to this day. They're like, why did you take like a voodoo magic course? And I'm like, listen to me, guys. So witchcraft is a bird course at uOttawa. Like, there's so many people who take this course every single semester because it's just a midterm and a final. You don't have any assignments, and it's basically you're learning about like Harry Potter stuff. That's literally what it is. Like the witch hunting trials. You learn a little bit about like Nazis and stuff. The only downsides to that class was, okay, it was a 3-hour lecture. It was a 7 to 10. I'm pretty sure it's always a 7 to 10. So have some coffee on you or some sort of like energy source, because you're gonna need it. And then 2, the prof actually doesn't use like a slideshow or post anything up on Brightspace, so you need to go to class and take your own notes, and you can't use any electronics. You have to handwrite them. So those are just kind of like the downsides to that course. I'm actually still not done with that class because I had to get that exam deferred. So currently it is rescheduled for the first week of July. Now, amidst this whole corona thing, I don't really know what entirely is gonna happen, but that's just kind of what the plan is for now, or at least just like what I know of. So those are basically my first semester courses. We're gonna move on to second semester. I just wrote my last exam of second semester yesterday, which is crazy. It was honestly hard. So second semester, I decided that it was in my best interest to only do 4 courses instead of 5. I decided to do that because 3 of the 4 courses I was taking this semester were heavily memorization based. They were dense courses. They were really time consuming. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't repeat what I went through with my first A&P. And honestly, guys, a lot of people do 4 courses. The minimum to be considered a full-time student is 4 courses, but I obviously know people who do 3 courses, 2 courses. Like, people are part-time. Do what works for you. If that means taking less courses, do it. Like, literally nobody cares. Everybody does it. At the end of the day, you're doing what's best for you. So I took A&P 2, and this was obviously for my degree. All these courses I took this semester for my degree. I took A&P 2, and this was mostly like joints, muscles, also the skin, and the nervous system, neuroanatomy and neurophysiology. The neurophysiology actually killed me, ripped me apart, ran me over with a truck, lit me on fire, threw me in a river, chopped me up. It just killed me. Like, it just killed me. That class was pretty decent. My prof for A&P 2 actually only tested us off of lecture material and like off of the slides and what was said in class. So I didn't have to worry about reading a textbook. I really don't know how I finished in that class right now. I had a decent mark before the exam, but only time will tell because I have not received my final mark back yet. I took philosophical issues in healthcare, which literally sounds so disgusting, and it's actually a disgusting class. This class, I mean, it was a little bit interesting because we talked about like organ donations, the ethics behind that, euthanasia, physician-assisted suicide, all that stuff, but it was still just not a class for me. The midterm formats were super duper ugly. Like, I'm used to doing multiple choice exams, and this just wasn't multiple choice. It just wasn't for me. Like, I'm so sorry. There's not really much to say about that class. Then I had A&P 3, and this was with the same professor who I had A&P 1 with. I learned to really like this professor. Obviously, when I first took A&P 1, I was like, oh my god, why is this prof making everything so hard, like harder than the other A&P 1 classes? But I actually went to their office hours and I spoke to them, and they were like super duper encouraging, like really helpful. So since I had the same prof that I already had before, I already knew how to study, I knew what to expect in regards to exam format, and I was actually doing pretty well in this class. I want to say for the most part, this was one of my better classes throughout this entire semester. I'm still waiting for the exam mark to come in, but it was a pretty good class. So the A&P classes, you don't have really any assignments to hand in. You just have homework, which is on Pearson, and it's super easy to like get answers online for those questions because people have Quizlets of them. And yeah, so that was that class. And then my very last class that I took this semester was Microbiology and Immunology. I'm gonna sound so negative because I've said I didn't like this class, I didn't like that class, but this class I just couldn't do. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I will not do this class ever again. It was a 3-hour evening class. You already know, me and my friend, we were running to get our coffees. We were running to get our Starbucks, our Tim Hortons. There's a lot of terminology. It's a really dense class, and the spelling of all the bacteria and stuff is like so ugly because you get marks taken off if you spell it wrong, which obviously that makes sense. It wasn't that bad of a course, but it's not my favorite. I would have done A&P over microbiome like yeah. But I finished with an A in the class, so I honestly can't complain because that's helping my GPA at this point. So those are basically all the classes. I just want you guys to know, like, this is just my honest review, I guess, for each class, but I know there's people who love other classes and hated classes that I liked. It's gonna be different for everyone. I look the exact same every time I do my makeup on camera, like if I'm not doing like eyeshadow or anything drastic. It is what it is at this point, you guys. I'm posting this video for myself to look back on, but I'm also hoping that this video can help anyone else who is just wondering what they're gonna be getting themselves into in first year. But yeah, guys, I hope I covered everything. Should I take this headband off? That is it for today's video. If you guys have any more questions about nursing or just about uOttawa in general, do not hesitate to comment them down below or hit me a DM at my Instagram. I love seeing like who's watching my videos, and I always get really excited when people message me telling me that they're starting the same program in September. I don't know, it's just like really cool to me. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. That's all from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.